Welcome to the Breakup Recovery Podcasts by your host, Barbara Stevens. Discover the wisdom and remarkable insights of Barbara Stevens, breakup recovery mentor, author, and public speaker. Barbara offers programs and solutions for any breakup so you can turn your life around, create lasting changes for the better, and embrace life again.
Hello and welcome to Breakup Recovery Podcast. I'm Barbara Stevens and I'm a breakup recovery mentor. In today's episode, I welcome back Rosalind Sedacca.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you as always.
So, Rosalind, I think we're going to talk about co-parenting today.
Yes, well, that's an important topic that's near and dear to my heart because as a divorced parent whose son was 11 when I had my divorce experience, I went through years and years to follow till he grew up. And of course, when you're divorced and a parent, you're always co-parenting, even when your children are grown adults. So it's a lifelong process and one that involves a lot of maturity and sensitivity for the parents.
So tell me, what would be the pros of co-parenting?
Well, children innately love both parents. And so what they want is to see mom and dad getting along in the best possible way, even after a divorce or breakup of any kind. The studies have shown that what creates the most stress and tension and discord for children is parental conflict around children. When parents are fighting, when parents are name-calling, putting each other down, disparaging one another, pointing fingers at one another, and the children are in earshot in any way, it affects them. It scars them. And so if parents can understand that they have to keep their adult conflict away from the children, it makes life so much easier for the children. And children do best when they have both parents in their lives and being themselves, but being parents as well. And so co-parenting is an opportunity to say, we created this child together, we both love this child together, and we want the best for our child. And then you make decisions as parents. You are not together in a romantic relationship any longer, and so it should make the relationship actually cleaner and easier to work on, because the only time you are interacting is when you're dealing with your children, and the focus should be on the well-being of your children.
So what would you suggest would be some of the do's, and we'll then talk about some of the don'ts later. So what are some of the do's parents can do so that they can successfully co-parent?
Well, one is to give your child personal time with both parents. Sometimes parents get very selfish and they feel if their child is enjoying time with their other parent or doing fun things and special things, that they get very competitive or jealous of that time. But you really want to allow your children to spend time with both parents and enjoy the pluses and the benefits of access to both parents. And your children will thank you in the long run, and they'll have fewer behavior problems and grow up to be happier and emotionally healthier when you honor that they have the right to love both of their parents. So that's important. And then you want to share as much family time as makes sense for your co-parenting situation. In some cases, co-parents can spend birthdays or holiday times together with the children as a family unit, whether it's for an hour or two or whether it's for a weekend. And it works out. In other cases, the parents really can't spend too much time in the same room together, but they honor and acknowledge the fact that you want to share your child's birthdays or graduations or other happy times. And so you want to see it and find as many ways where you can both be there as part of a parenting team. And that brings me to another plus. Another thing to focus on is think of yourself as a parenting team despite the divorce. So if you think as a co-parent, then you realize that when you were married, you were one of two parents, and you still are. So when parenting issues come up, you could ask yourself, what would I do as a parent if we weren't divorced? And that's a really important, pivotal question. What would we do? What would I do as a parent if we weren't divorced? And if it still makes the same sense, then go ahead and respond accordingly, because you don't want to be changing your response to that in order to hurt your ex, in order to show up or show off against the ex, in order to make them a bad parent and you a good parent. What you want is to make the best parenting decisions you possibly can, because you're a parent first and a divorcee second. And so co-parents who continue parenting as a team create an easier transition for the children and a much better post-divorce adjustments for the children involved and for themselves. And another important guideline is to be as flexible and cooperative as possible in co-parenting, because when you do, you're going to get more likelihood of flexibility and cooperation back. So life is full of unexpected issues. Our schedules change, accidents happen, we get sick. There's going to be times when we have to call up our co-parent and say, hey, I just cannot be there at 4 o'clock or 7 o'clock, or I can't do Saturday, or whatever the situation is. Can you please do me a favor and can you cover for me? And if you are more flexible and cooperative with your co-parent, then they're much more likely to be that way for you. And believe me, co-parenting is a lifetime experience. So you want to start flowing in that lifetime way and being more flexible. It reduces defensiveness and it builds bridges towards better parenting solutions. And every time you forgive and indulge a behavior from your ex that may be irritating or not quite what ideal, without creating a huge issue, you're ultimately making life easier for you and your child. And for me, that's really worth it.
I guess another one I hear a lot of people talk about is setting the same boundaries so that you co-parent in a parallel way with your children when the child or children are with each of the parents.
Whenever possible, that is ideal. There's no doubt about it. If you keep the same boundaries, and if you, especially ones that your family is used to from before the breakup, then life is definitely easier. In some cases, that's not going to be the case. And then we have to learn to pick our battles, because sometimes sleep time may be vastly different in one house or the other, or the leniency about certain behaviors, doing homework and things like that. Sometimes the diet may be different in two homes. And so we have to decide when to stand up and say, this is harmful for our child and we need to talk about this, versus picking your battles and trying to control life in the other home, because sometimes the divorce is based on the fact that you felt differently about food or about homework or exercise or sports or a number of other issues, especially discipline issues. Keep the schedules as much the same as you can, but understand that your children will thrive more when they're getting love and when they're experiencing peace and harmony. And that's even more important than keeping things ideally perfect from home to home.
So, Rosalind, I guess we've spoken a lot of the do's. What are some of the don'ts parents should do when it comes to co-parenting their children?
Well, again, I'm going to stress, don't fight around your children. Keep them away from parental conflict and disagreements, because it creates so much emotional and psychological harm for the children. You really want to be a positive role model for them, and you want to show them the way mature people handle challenges, because basically breakups and divorces are challenging life experiences, and your children are going to experience challenges. So showing them ways to get along and cooperate, even if you don't see eye to eye, is really a wonderful lesson for them. You also want to make sure you do not turn your children into confidants. Again, there's a competitive sense between some co-parents, and you want your child to be on your team or take your side. That isn't the healthiest thing for your children. And it's hard enough for adults to unravel the complex emotions that are connected to a breakup. So it's so much better if you're talking to your child in a child-focused way and age-appropriate language, but you don't want to turn them into a confidant, a friend, an ally, or a spy. So it's very important in co-parenting that you don't expect your children to spy for you and then give you a description of the girl that dad dated or what you said and did every step of the way over the weekend. It's very important that you are fair and not imposing the burden on your children to expect them to act like adults and to expect them to be a spy for you or betray their other parent in any possible way. So learn to pick your battles and decide what's worth discussing and what's not, and allow your children to love their other parent as much as possible. And that'll give you a stronger co-parenting experience. And if your co-parent isn't cooperative, which is very often the case, the way you behave is going to be a model for them. It's going to disarm them from creating more stress and anxiety. Now, in some cases, the tension is such that you need an outside objective third party to come in. You need to see a therapist or a divorce coach or some other expert who can help you navigate issues if you have them. But in many cases, there are ways of moving together by not putting one another on the defensive, and that opens the door to more trust and harmony between the two co-parents. And remember that it's like starting a corporation. Your business is raising your children together. You don't have the romantic side of it to deal with, but you have the physical side to deal with it. You have the emotional and psychological side. And what you want to do is raise healthy, happy, mature, self-confident children to adulthood. And that takes as much cooperation as you possibly can give to one another. But if you love your children, and you both do, and you share that bond, that should be enough strength to realize that when you create discord around the children, you are hurting the children that you love. So be the mature adults that you want your children to grow up to be, and that'll make a huge positive difference in your co-parenting experience.
I think sometimes parents can fall into the trap that if they have more time with their children, they'll have a better relationship. Quantity is no substitute for quality. Would you agree with that?
Yes, obviously, you can be in the same room with your children and giving them no attention, and that doesn't mean you're parenting them. So it's definitely the quality of time, the focus, letting your children know that they matter, that they count, what they think matters to you, and that you love them really goes a long way. Even if you can't spend all the time with them that you would like, you want them to feel that connection and bond with you. Children, like everyone else, want to feel respected. They want to feel they matter. And that's a very important facet of any phase of parenting. And when you're co-parenting, you want to be able to give your children that extra attention that they need to know that despite the difficult challenges that life throws at us sometimes, we can move past this with strength and dignity, and life is going to be good for us ahead. And then we want to show them that we really can give that to our children.
Rosalind, where can people find you?
Well, my website is childcentereddivorce.com. And at that website, I have a free ebook on post-divorce parenting, which is really valuable. Lots of wonderful advice and lessons and insights about that, including co-parenting. And I also have a book on breaking the divorce news to children called How Do I Tell the Kids About the Divorce, which can be found at Child Centered Divorce as well. And then I have a website on dating after divorce for parents. One website is womendatingafter40.com, womendatingafter40.com. and the other is mensdatingformula.com. And what those websites are about is helping you start life over again on better footing with the mindset that's going to attract a healthier love relationship in the future, and taking into account that if you have children, there's a lot you have to pay attention to so that you make the best decisions every step of the way.
So, Rosalind, I think we're going to have to get you back so we can talk more about dating after a breakup, both for women and men. I want to thank you for coming back onto Breakup Recovery podcast and talking about co-parenting. And I love the phrase or the statement that you said that parents should think, what would I do if I was still in a relationship in regards to co-parenting? I think that's a very important question we should all ask ourselves when we are faced with the dilemma of co-parenting. So thank you very much for coming back on, Rosalind.
You are very welcome, and I look forward to talking with you again.
If you feel that you are still struggling with your breakup, if you are experiencing intense feelings of anger, resentment and bitterness, and it is taking over your life, I'm here to help you in this area of moving on and coping after your breakup. I work with my clients one-on-one through my mentoring program. If you want to learn more about how we can work together, contact me via email or my Facebook page, Barbara Stevens Breakup Recovery Mentor, and book in for my free 30-minute sounding board session, and we can set up a time that suits. In this free session, you will walk away with clarity about your situation, strategies and tools to start building the future you deserve, so together we can start your journey of recovery. All my information is on my website, www.barbarastevens.com.au. If you don't want to miss an episode of Breakup Recovery Podcast, subscribe on iTunes, and I would appreciate it if you could take the time to write a review and rate the podcast. Also, feel free to message me with any questions that you have about Breakup Recovery podcasts or subjects that you want me to cover in future podcast episodes by clicking on the contact button of my website or my Facebook page. I'm always looking for ways to help you recover from your breakup. And the last thing I'd like to say is, be gentle on yourself. You deserve happiness. If you would like to hear previous Breakup Recovery podcasts, visit barbarastevens.com.au. Connect with Barbara Stevens on social media with Barbara Stevens Breakup Recovery Mentor on Facebook and at You'll Be Okay on Twitter. Read further blogs, view webinar replays, and download your free ebook, 3 Easy Steps to Surviving Your Breakup, and much more at barbarastevens.com.au.